presents educational satellite television programs.
Hello, teacher. Hello, students. Welcome to today's lesson on insight learning. In our last lesson, we studied operant and latent learning. We learned that operant learning, or conditioning, is a method of learning that occurs through rewards and punishments for behavior. An example of operant conditioning is when a child works on its homework for a reward. Latent learning happens when the brain acquires knowledge but does not use that knowledge until it is needed at a later time. Latent learning is acquired when a person observes an action often enough that he or she can perform the same action at a later time, even though he or she may have never done the action before. In today's lesson, we will be learning about another method of learning called insight learning. I hope you're ready to begin, students. Insight learning involves a sudden realization. This is distinct from the cause and effect problem solving we have been learning about so far in this unit. Insight learning manifests as a spontaneous occurrence and is a noteworthy phenomenon in the learning process. Insight learning involves finding solutions to problems that are based on actual experience, such as trial and error, but the trials occur mentally. The solution is often learned suddenly, such as when a person has been trying to solve a problem for a period of time and then suddenly the solution seems to appear out of nowhere. It is often called a eureka moment or an epiphany. Students, for our first activity, can you please describe how conditioning and insight learning are different? Take a few minutes to write down any ideas you have.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, students. Were you able to answer the question? Conditioned learning emphasizes the association between stimuli and responses, and insight learning takes place without any trial and error or testing. Insight learning often occurs when associations or relationships between objects and actions are apparent. Insight helps to solve problems. The experience of insight learning often involves three factors. The first is that all possible problem-solving attempts have been tried and have been unsuccessful. The second is that ongoing attempts to solve a seemingly unsolvable problem eventually end. The final factor is that a perfect solution to the problem is suddenly realized in a spontaneous way. The research of Wolfgang Köhler significantly contributed to the understanding of insight learning. Köhler was a psychologist who conducted experiments in which insight learning was observed in animal behavior. He studied problem-solving behaviors in chimpanzees to observe insight learning. In one of Köhler's experiments, after a chimpanzee named Sultan was given 2 short bamboo sticks with a banana placed out of reach, insight learning eventually occurred. After unsuccessfully attempting to reach the banana with either of the short sticks, Sultan sat and looked at the 2 sticks up. Suddenly, Sultan thought of pushing the thinner bamboo inside the thicker bamboo. Instantaneously, insight revealed a solution to Sultan, who could successfully reach the banana. Let us watch a video showing another example of Köhler's experiments with monkeys.
At the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology in Leipzig, Germany, psychologist Joseph Cole places a peanut inside a clear tube. How can the chimpanzee get the snack? She's never seen this puzzle before.
For 10 minutes, there is no solution in sight. And all of a sudden, boom, they solve it. They have to understand that they can use the water as a tool. This is interesting because the water itself, it doesn't have any shape.
Using water as a tool seems like something we would do on a good day.
Let us review what we have learned thus far, students. Can you name the 3 factors that influence the insight learning experience?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, everyone. If you listed that all possible problem-solving attempts were tried and have been unsuccessful, that ongoing attempts to solve a seemingly unsolvable problem eventually end, and that a perfect solution to the problem is suddenly realized in a spontaneous way, then you answered correctly. Well done, students. An important term that describes insight learning is epiphany. Epiphanies involve a sudden revelation or abrupt awareness that bring seemingly random data into realization. Experiencing an epiphany is often associated with the feeling of having a sudden leap of understanding. The opposite of insight learning would be insight achieved through a gradual building up of knowledge, leading to a successful solution. Insight learning also involves feeling like you have discovered something. The Greek word eureka is often used to describe a feeling like this. This moment is usually accompanied by the sensation of suddenly knowing something after the disappointment of being uninformed. Have you ever had a moment like this, students? Write down your experience with an epiphany moment, or a moment that made you want to exclaim, Eureka! Share your stories with the classmate sitting next to you.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello, everyone. Did you share your epiphany moments with your classmates? I am sure everyone had a very interesting moment to share. This brings us to the end of our lesson for today. In this lesson, we learned about insight learning. We discussed the 3 factors that influence the insight learning experience in Wolfgang Köhler's experiments. We also learned the terms epiphany and eureka. I hope you all enjoyed the lesson. Until next time, thank you, teacher. Thank you, students.